So today's video, I want to talk quickly a little bit about version control systems. Information on the right here. You want to just scroll through it as the video plays. I'm also going to make sure I add everything to GitHub, which is a version control system. So short, what is Git? What is version control systems? What are they? They are a tool or tools that will let you keep history of your code. If you want to make a change to a file and you want to have different versions of that, or let's say you want to make changes to a file, but you're afraid that those changes might break something and you want to have a stable, valid place to go back to, that's another reason to use Git. Git is just one of many version control systems. There are a plethora of options, but recently favor has landed pretty much all on the Git version control system. So Git was originally created by Linus Torvald. He is the creator of Linux. Um, he used it to work on his OS, basically. Here's some links. I'll put them into the description. So we're going to be talking about Git specifically today, which works well with GitHub, or rather has to be used with GitHub. Let's set up a really bad example of why you might want to use Git. So for instance, here's a file name, and let's say this file is really important code that you've got and you've made changes. Maybe you've made one change where you're changing how your projectile motion works, and you made another change where you're changing how fast something moves, or you're changing how you're loading data from a file, or some other attribute of your game that's significant enough of a change that you actually want to make a backup of it in case something went wrong. Well, over time, it gets really hard to manage and deal with, well, which one of these is my actual file? Is it file name? Is a file name new? Which one's the newest one that has the changes I wish were actually being used by my program going forward? So Git will help you deal with this issue of having multiple different copies of a file and trying to guess which one's supposed to be the current version. I went over that. Why does it matter? Yes, so some of the stuff I already said, I'm just going to skip by it, jump into some of the basics. So to create a brand new branch from scratch, you would just type git init. So let's just open up a terminal here and git init. Now we have a folder called .git. It's a hidden folder in Windows. Don't touch the content inside there. That's how it manages the history and the changes and the deltas or differences between different files. If you want to check the status, you can now do a git status and it will show you, hey, there's all these files here. Generally, this works better if you have already started from the beginning. So obviously you wouldn't have had 16 different copies of the file. You'd only have the single file, and then that single file, you would be making changes to that file. When you're working with Git, it's usually a good idea to create different branches. So the default on older versions of Git, which I must have installed here, is master, but the generally accepted practice now is that your default branch will be a branch called main instead. There's a few different ways you can create a new branch. I favor the one that has the least amount of work, which is git checkout -b and then the name of the branch. Since there isn't a main branch, I'm going to create a main branch in this example. If we do a status, we see that not only did I create this branch, but I also changed to that branch. I checked it out. At this point in time, the file is still untracked and not committed, and so if I delete this file, it's gone for good. I have no way to go back to it. I have no previous versions of the file. The the file is also empty. There's nothing in the file right now. However, if we want to start tracking this file, we type git add and then the file name. If we check the status, let's zoom in a little bit here for everybody. You can see that now it says, hey, you're on branch main, and there's a new file called filename. At this point in time, Git is still not tracking this file to the point where you can have different versions of the file. So at this point in time, you still need to do another command, which is git commit. And generally, you want a message to be added with that commit. And if you want to type it real fast without going into an editor to be able to put a multi-line message, you can just do it right here on the command line like this. Adding initial file. Let's say we want to make some changes now. So if we look at the file, it shows that we're on the branch. There's nothing to commit. The working tree is clean. And you notice that we don't see like before where it said untracked changes. So this file is now in the history. And if we make a change to it, and we check the status, it now shows here's the changes that are not staged, meaning that they're not ready to be committed. You need to tell Git that you want to take these changes and save them in history. So it doesn't automatically make changes every time you save a file or save changes. You have to tell it when to do that. So git add the file name. We check the status again. We'll see, just like before, that now it's tracking these changes that we've made to the file, but we have not committed into the history this change. So if we delete this file right now, we can't get back to this point. So you still need to do a commit. Obviously, you'd have better commit messages than I'm doing right now, but these are just examples. That's basically it. There's a little bit more for if you want to push your changes up, or if you want to copy somebody else's code down, download their code. You would clone their repository down to your computer. I did want to add, there are many other videos on YouTube, other platforms, other documents that are well more versed in the details, that go into depth, that talk about how to use Git. This is just a quick one-stop shop. How do you use Git? Why is it important? Just to get you going.